Part 146. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1451. Chapter 1451 Making Things Difficult for Manman 3. At this moment, Tang Xinglu's body was bruised in many places, and some wounds were covered with tape. She looked quite pitiful. After hearing Tang Xinglu's accusation, the Tang family members had strange expressions, especially Grandma Tang. Her expression seemed like she wanted to laugh, but she had to keep her dignified image to hold back. Tang Wentao's expression wanted to pretend to be calm, but he sighed helplessly. Lu Rong, who followed her daughter, pulled her from time to time to prevent them from talking anymore, but this girl couldn't stop her mouth and the open dam. "Dad, you must make the decision for me. She is just the wife of my former eldest brother. Why do you dare to be so arrogant in our family and bully your only daughter?" Tang Xinglu angrily accused Qian Yuman. At this moment she also realized that her father had objections to what she said. Dad, tell me, she is no longer my eldest brother's wife, because she caused him to sever ties with you. Why would you invite such a woman to your home? Aren't we going to drive her away as a family? No, welcome a woman like this to our home. Tang Xinglu spoke more and more excessively, and she had no choice but to drive Qian Yuman out with a broom. Qian Yuman's face was also a little ugly, and her eyes were full of meaning. He wanted to know what Tang Wentao's attitude was. She was indeed responsible for the bad relationship between him and Tang Yuj. Although that person was Li Li, it was actually because of her that she got angry and directed her anger at Lu Rong. In order to protect Lu Rong, Tang Wentao had a big quarrel with his son, which led to Tang Yuj and Tang Wentao breaking up and severing the relationship between father and son. To this day, their father and son have never met each other, and their relationship has always been at a freezing point. Even for her, it was because of her mother Qian Xiener and her two daughters that Tang Wentao didn't look down upon her. She wanted to know Tang Wentao's attitude and whether he wanted to reconcile with his son. What else Tang Xinglu wanted to say, Tang Wentao finally expressed his position under the attention of the family. "Tang Xinglu, if you continue to be disrespectful to your sister-in-law, I will send you abroad to study." Tang Xinglu didn't expect her father's attitude to be like this, and looked at her father in disbelief. "Dad, what are you talking about? Are you speaking for this woman?" Tang Wentao raised his hand and slapped his daughter in the face. "What, this woman, that woman?" Tang Xinglu, who was slapped by Tang Wentao, sat down on the ground. Her eyes were red, and she looked at her biological father in shock. "Dad, you actually hit me because of this woman. You are still disrespectful. This is your sister-in-law, not this woman or that woman. She is the mother of your nephews and nieces, and your eldest brother's wife. How did you get the injuries on your body? You know it in your heart and you need me. Do you want to point it out in front of everyone?" Tang Wentao pointed at his daughter angrily and scolded her angrily. These words not only slandered Tang Xinglu, but also acknowledged Qian Yuman's identity, and at the same time expressed his concern for Tang Yuj. Qian Yuman is his son's wife, Tang Xinglu's sister-in-law, and the mother of his grandchildren. This identity will never change. Facing Tang Wentao's anger, Tang Xinglu pouted and wanted to argue loudly, but couldn't. She looked at Qian Yuman angrily, then ran away with a loud cry. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1452. Chapter 1452 Bringing the father and son together. 1. Facing Tang Wentao's anger, Tang Xinglu pouted and wanted to argue loudly, but couldn't. She looked at Qian Yuman angrily, then ran away with a loud cry. Tang Xinglu cried and ran out of the house, but Tang Wentao did not chase her out. He still had an angry look on his face and looked at Lu Rong with a different look. Look at the good daughter you raised. She is so young, but she is so willful and speaks without thinking. Tang Wentao's scolding made Lu Rong's expression become sad, and she looked at Tang Wentao pitifully. Wentao, I stopped her. That's enough. You still have the nerve to stop me? If you had raised your daughter well since she was a child, how could you be so unruly and willful now and still accuse others casually? Look at your son, he was not forced to leave by you. Neither did you. Do you know how to reflect and reflect? Tang Wentao loudly criticized Lu Rong's education directly in front of Qian Yuman, without giving her any face at all. Qian Yuman on the side felt very happy when she saw Lu Rong being scolded, but she didn't show it directly. Grandma Tang's originally serious expression turned into a happy smile. Seeing that Lu Rong was finally scolded by her son, she felt much happier. It deserves it, my wife here has been unhappy for a long time. They didn't expect that their son would express his opinion in front of them. Not bad, not bad. Better. Lu Rong was scolded by Tang Wentao obediently and did not dare to respond. She lowered her eyes to prevent the people present from seeing the darkness in her eyes. Qian Yuman, you won't be crazy for long. My anger will make you understand that you can't fight with anyone, even if you have a good man. Lu Rong went back to the room after being scolded, and didn't have much reaction. Instead, Qian Yuman felt uncomfortable in her heart. She knew very well how vicious this woman was. She had teamed up with Qi Yuking to kill the child in Li Li's belly, and even forced her son away. Will she face Tang Wentao's accusations so calmly, without any resentment at all? Won't. She must hate her and Mr. Tang now. After Lu Rong left, Qian Yuman and Tang Wentao sat down. Ruru was in Tang Wentao's arms, and little Mickey sat next to Grandma Tang, who fed a lot of food into her mouth. Dad, do you want to reconcile with Yuj? Qian Yuman was not one to go around and ask the question directly. This is also what Grandma Tang wants to see most. Tang Wentao looked a little embarrassed at his daughter-in-law's question and coughed lightly. This question has troubled me for a long time. Is there any father in the world who would really sever ties with his son? It was Yuj who unilaterally proposed the severance of ties back then. I never raised it from the beginning to the end. Tang Wentao's attitude is very clear. It was Tang Yuj who suggested severing the relationship. He was just unwilling to bow his head to his son because of his face. What's more, the son sent his wife to a mental hospital for a year, and when she came back, she looked like a god. After Lu Rong came back, he didn't bother his son anymore, and just regarded this matter as over. But the son's attitude was very firm and he was unwilling to see him once, let alone return to this house to see Grandma Tang. As an elder, he would never come to apologize in person. He couldn't do it. Qian Yuman smiled and pointed at her children. As long as Dad wants to reconcile with Mr. Tang, I will always have a way to get your relationship back to what it used to be. Not very close, or at least not seeing each other. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1453. Chapter 1453 Bringing the father and son together too. There is no deep hatred between the father and son, only some knots that cannot be solved over the years. As long as they are honest, let go of the knots in the past, and get along well, I believe that their relationship will get better, at least not to the extent of severing the relationship. Since he was very young, Tang Yuj has had problems with his father. This was due to Tang Wentao's failure to Tang's mother, and later to his anger over Qian Yuman's affairs. The root of all this is inseparable from Lu Rong. It is impossible for Qian Yuman to tell Tang Wentao directly that it was all Lu Rong's fault. Let's not say whether he believes it or not. Even if he believes it, Will he divorce Lu Rong? Although Tang Wentao's love has been Jian Xian'er for many years, he is definitely not completely devoid of feelings for Lu Rong. In addition, she is the mother of their 2 children, so divorce is not a matter of divorce. Since Dad also wants to reconcile with Mr. Tang, then I will organize it. Our whole family will go out to eat together. I will put Yuj on my feed to create a chance for you to meet. It's just this opportunity. You must not tell Tang Yuj in advance. Tang Wentao will appear. Okay, Tang Wentao readily agreed. Tang Wentao nodded, and the chance for the father and son to relax was one step closer. At least Tang Wentao's side compromised and saved face, leaving only Mr. Tang's ideological work. Jian Yuman said that she wanted to organize a meal, so she called Tang Yuj in the afternoon and said that she would have dinner with Grandma Tang and the others that evening, but she did not mention Tang Wentao's name. Tang Yuj didn't know what Jian Yuman had in mind. He just assumed that she would return to S City and officially have a meal with her grandma and the others. Jian Yuman hesitated again and called out Grandma Tang and her children, Tang Feishan and Tang Xingai. Originally, I wanted to call Tang Xinglu, but since she was slapped by Tang Wentao, this unruly rich lady has gone to no one knows where. Lu Rong and Jian Yuman will definitely not scream. Not to mention that she hates her very much. The person who hates Lu Rong even more is Tang Yuj. If he sees Lu Rong, he may slam the table and leave in anger, which will ruin the evening for them. A chance for the father-son relationship to get better. The location was set at the Dihao Hotel. The 3 brothers Tang Yuj had already arrived first, followed by Jian Yuman, Grandma Tang, and others. Tang Wentao stood at the door of the Dihao Hotel, looking at the signboard with emotion. It surprised me that Tang Wentao can be said to be the last person in the entire Tang family to know that the Emgrand Group is the eldest son's property. At first, because the insider, Grandma Tang, wanted to help conceal the situation, Tang Wentao did not know that his eldest son had a career of his own. He thought that Tang Yuj was an idle young man who idled around all day and was not interested in the family business. It was only when the relationship was severed that he discovered that his son's career had long been bigger than the Tang dynasty group. If his son hadn't severed ties with him and hadn't been investigating Lu Rong's whereabouts, it might have taken him longer to find out about the Dihao group founded by his son. It was also from that time that he realized what an outstanding talent his eldest son was. This is not the first time Tang Wentao has come to the Dihao group. He does know that this is the first time his son has dined at this restaurant since he founded it. When I came here before, I didn't know that it was my son who organized it. I went in and out of the Royal Hotel countless times to socialize. I didn't expect that one day, I would come here to have dinner with my son to ease the relationship. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1454. Chapter 1454 Bringing the father and son together 3. Okay, don't sigh, my grandson is waiting inside. Grandma Tang stood at the door, urging Tang Wentao to come in quickly. Tang Wentao nodded, followed closely, and entered the most noble and luxurious box of the Emgrand group. Tang Yuj, who was chatting with his brothers, heard the door open and immediately looked over with a smile on his face. Grandma, you are here. Hey, my little Yuer, why have you lost weight? Grandma Tang held Tang Yuj's hand lovingly and touched his obviously thin face with distress. It had just been a long time since we last seen each other. Why did he lose weight? I heard that I had a quarrel with Xiao Manor before, and it seems that I lost a lot of weight because of it. Why? Who knows that the Tang family is a bunch of infatuated people, always suffering for love but never tired of it. Tang Yuj is like this. Tang Feishan remains infatuated with Qi Lilii, Tang Xingai's temperament changes greatly due to love, and even Tang Wentao has always missed Jian Xian'er in his heart. Even if he gets married and has children, the one he loves most in his heart is still his original lover. It's just that the Tang family are all infatuated, but none of their relationships goes smoothly, and most of them end in fate. In comparison, although there are constant twists and turns between Jianyuman and Tang Yuge, they have a heart that just wants to be with each other, and they can do whatever it takes to do so. They are lucky. Daddy, the twins walked in later and shouted enthusiastically when they saw Tang Yuge. Little Mickey is still pretending to be cool and standing calmly next to Mommy, but Ruru is no longer calm and pounces directly towards her, raising her hands to give her a hug. Daddy, give me a hug, give me a hug, Ruru smiled brightly, waving her hands, her cute little face full of hope. Facing his daughter's coquettishness, Tang Yuge couldn't bear it. He squatted down, hugged his daughter and kissed her little face. Ruru, do you miss your daddy? Think about it, Ruru's little head was buzzing, she hugged her daddy's neck and kissed him back. Ruru thinks about daddy every moment every day, when can she come to see daddy, and when can she take Ruru to eat delicious food? Jianyuman raised an eyebrow at the side, suddenly realizing that he could use Mr. Tang to make Ruru return to them obediently. With Mr. Tang as a powerful tool, I believe Ruru will gradually stop crying and clamoring for her mother. Tang Wentao was the last one to walk in. Tang Yuge did not notice him immediately when he came in. Tang Yuge was happily interacting with his daughter and did not even notice the person following him. Jianyuman always paid attention to Tang Yuge and Tang Wentao. After Tang Wentao came in, he locked the door immediately to prevent Mr. Tang from escaping immediately. Then he winked at his son and went to Plan A. After receiving the instruction from Mommy, little Mickey immediately shouted sweetly. Grandpa, sit next to little Mickey. There is an empty seat where little Mickey is sitting. Jianyuman is sitting next to him, and Tang Yuge is sitting in a seat on the other side. In the past, Ruru sat next to Tang Yuge, so the seat where little Mickey calls Tang Wentao is sitting next to Tang Yuge. Tang Yuge, who was joking with his daughter, heard his son's cry and raised his head casually. When he saw Tang Wentao, he stood up quickly, and the fatherly smile on his face instantly turned gloomy. Why are you here? Tang Yuge's tone was bad, and his face was even more smelly, and he shouted directly at Tang Wentao. I asked Grandpa to come. At this moment, little Mickey was showing off his power, looking at his father with an innocent face, as if he didn't understand anything. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1455. Chapter 1455 Bringing the father and son together. 4. You asked Grandpa here. Tang Yuge looked at his son, feeling depressed, and looked at Jianyuman, who did not dare to look at him. This nosy woman actually instigated her son to scheme against him. He didn't tell him early that Tang Wentao would also come. He thought that several of their brothers and grandma had a party. I didn't expect to invite Tang Wentao. Tang Yuge's face was ugly, and he was trying hard to suppress the anger in his heart. There were 2 children here, and he didn't want to leave a bad image in the children's hearts. Jianyuman, you are such a lovely woman, Tang Yuge said calmly, but there was something in his words. A certain woman pretended not to understand and looked at Tang Yuge innocently. That's it, I'm not cute, how can you love me? He just pretended not to understand and felt angry in front of his son. Tang Yuge stood up and looked down at Tang Wentao sitting next to him with a dark face. Old man, you are in the wrong place today. Although Tang Yuge suppressed his anger and drove Tang Wentao away directly, it did not mean that he would not express his dissatisfaction. If he did not express his position, a certain woman would definitely have another time. My grandson invited me over for dinner. Tang Wentao also wanted to reconcile with his son, but due to the issue of face, he had already prepared that his son would say some unpleasant things to him and was ready to take advantage of him. But I don't welcome you, this is my hotel. This meal is my treat. Tang Wentao was very calm. He picked up the dish and put it into his mouth, and accepted the invitation calmly. You Dehao have no experience of chasing away guests, right? Dehao Hotel is famous for its luxury and good service. As long as you have money to spend, you will have emperor-like service. Tang Wentao paid for today's meal, and he was a guest here. Tang Yuj naturally has a way to drive him away, but if the reputation of driving away guests spreads, it will naturally damage the royal hotel. Tang Yuj can do whatever he wants, but if he does this, it will inevitably create a bad image for his children. Tang Wentao's biological father, if his children follow his example and turn against him in the future, he doesn't want to die. Daddy, I want to eat chicken feet. Ruru couldn't handle chopsticks well enough now, but she could pick up some vegetables. After several failed attempts at picking up chicken feet, she pitifully turned to Tang Yuj for help. Tang Yuj's sudden anger was extinguished a little bit after hearing his daughter's screams every day. Daddy, Ruru said coquettishly and wanted to eat chicken feet. Although she was not as smart as little Mickey, she could tell that something was wrong in the atmosphere, so she pestered Tang Yuj to eat chicken feet. Daddy, I'll give it to you right now. Tang Yuj pursed his lips, sat down, and faced his daughter with a bright smile on his face. How many Ruru want to eat? Daddy will pick them up for you. 1 will be given to my brother, and the others will be given to Ruru. Ruru smiled and greedily wanted to eat all the chicken feet. Tang Wentao, who was sitting across the table, took a chicken foot to his grandson before waiting for Tang Yuj to react, and brought the whole plate to Ruru. Wow, Grandpa is the best. Ruru got what she wanted, holding a whole plate of chicken feet and started eating happily. Tang Yuj glanced at Tang Wentao, remained silent, and continued to ask Ruru if she wanted to eat something, and then took the initiative to give her daughter some of her favorite side dishes. Neither of them continued to bicker, and Tang Yuj's expression softened, but when facing his daughter, his expression was spring-like. A new book will be released on May 20th, everyone can look forward to it. Are you excited? Are you happy? The introduction is as follows. Climb onto the bed and I'll take a picture of you. Take off your coat. Take off one more piece. She was angry, pulled out all her hair, rushed towards him, tugged at his clothes and yelled. You have to take them off together, and you have to take them together. It's best not to wear anything at all. Come on. Hurt each other. A hot photo spread all over the world overnight. She became the heroine of the pornographic scandal and the most interesting person in the country, just because she had a fight in the car. Since then, she has been living a perverted life. The male protagonist of the pornographic school has taken control of her and forced her to take various role-playing photos. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1456. Chapter 1456 Bringing the father and son together. 5. Tang Yuj glanced at Tang Wentao, remained silent, and continued to ask Ruru if she wanted to eat something, and then took the initiative to give her daughter some of her favorite side dishes. Neither of them continued to bicker, and Tang Yuj's face softened. However, when facing his daughter, his face was as bright as spring. There was a huge difference between Tang Wentao's state. Qian Yuman was beating him every time she looked at him. The difference was too obvious, and it was very disrespectful to Tang's father. Tang Wentao's face also looked a little bad. There was no communication between the two, and Sugar Baby would not take the initiative to talk to Tang Yuj. Tang Yuj only talked to his children, and Lian Qianiman was a bit indifferent. At this time, we need the support of the fan club, and Grandma Tang spoke. Xiao Yuer, you haven't visited Grandma much recently. Grandma Tang deliberately pretended to be lonely. Grandma can come and see me anytime if she wants to see me. Tang Yuj responded with a smile. I'm getting older and I don't like running around anymore. You should come home to see me more often. Yes. Mr. Tang, you should come with me to see Grandma more often. Grandma is very lonely at home alone, Jian Yuman echoed from the side. Jian Yuman poked her son's body with a smile and winked at him. After receiving the instruction from his mother, little Mickey asked with an innocent smile. Daddy, why don't you come back with us every time you visit Grandma? The servants, uncles, and aunts at Grandma's house all ask me why Dad hasn't come back. Little Mickey's tone was full of doubts and curiosity. Even a little lonely. Although Ruru didn't understand what the adults meant, she nodded with deep sympathy after hearing her brother's words. Daddy, why don't you go play with Ruru? Grandma's house is so much fun, and there's a swing in the yard. A bunch of questions from the four assists, plus the questions from the two little kids, left Tang Yuj speechless. Tang Wentao looked deeply at the family members who were trying to bring them together, glanced at his son, and sighed deeply. When are you going home? The plain question was Tang Wentao's best step. If it weren't for the help of his family members, he would definitely not have said this. Tang Yuj finally looked at Tang Wentao not with disgust, but with a little surprise, because he didn't expect Tang Wentao to take a step back. However, the resentment in his heart could not be resolved overnight. Regarding the issue of returning home, he originally planned not to go back no matter what his family said. Whenever you divorce Lu Rong, I will go back. Tang Yuj made the request indifferently. Lu Rong's existence was the most important thing to him. Although he could tolerate Lu Rong back then, it was because he was alone and did not have a pair of daughters or a beloved woman. Lu Rong's harm to Jian Yuman was something he could never forgive in his life. In order to protect them, he must take a stand. It's not that I refuse to forgive you, but that I refuse to forgive you for always shielding Lu Rong. Tang Wentao was disgusted with Tang Yuj's answer, and even wanted to get angry directly without giving him a good look. The son actually interfered with my marriage and made such excessive demands. Tang Wentao also had a bad temper, so he slapped the table and stood up. I can't return my love, I'm full, Tang Wentao said with a solemn face and walked out directly. Dad, Jian Yuman glared at Tang Yuj angrily and followed Tang Wentao to chase him out to stop him. Dad, don't leave in a hurry. Yuj is just venting his anger on me for what happened back then. A new book will be released on May 20th, everyone can look forward to it. Are you excited? Are you happy? The introduction is as follows. Climb onto the bed and I'll take a picture of you. Take off your coat. Take off one more piece. She was angry, pulled out all her hair, rushed towards him, tugged at his clothes and yelled. You have to take them off together, and you have to take them together. It's best not to wear anything at all. Come on. Hurt each other. A hot photo spread all over the world overnight. She became the heroine of the pornographic scandal and the most interesting person in the country, just because she had a fight in the car. Since then, she has been living a perverted life. The male protagonist of the pornographic school has taken control of her and forced her to take various role-playing photos. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1457. Chapter 1457 Li Li's miscarriage 1. Tang Yuj grabbed Tang's father. Dad, you haven't eaten much, don't leave in a hurry. You don't need to take Yuj's words to heart, he is just a little unconvinced. Tang Wentao glanced at his son. Not convinced? What is there to be unconvinced about? Regarding his irrelevant speculation that Ranjir is a sinister and cunning woman? As his husband, it's good that he didn't get angry directly. Tang Wentao's words made Jian Yuman's smile freeze on her face, and she almost ended up accusing Lu Rong. However, considering that Tang Wentao was Lu Rong's husband and Tang Xingai was Lu Rong's son, it was hard for her to say bad things about Lu Rong directly in front of them. Tang Wentao had better leave. He couldn't stop him. Even though they had a decent dinner, the father and son made him unhappy. Qian Yuman was calm, staring at Tang Yuj, and reached out to slap him on the head. Why are you talking to dad like that? No matter what, you can't make such excessive demands. That's too much, Tang Yuj responded dissatisfiedly. If it weren't for Lu Rong, Lily, I would have lost that child. Tang Yuj suddenly remembered that his younger brother was also present, and it was too late to shut up. Qian Yuman also looked at Tang Feishan nervously. Sure enough, she saw Tang Feishan froze in his movements of picking up vegetables, and suddenly raised his head to look at Tang Yuj. Tang Feishan, who was still eating, heard the words Lili and child, coupled with the strange expressions on Tang Yuj and Qian Yuman's faces. A terrible idea appeared in his mind. Brother, what do you mean by what you just said? For it. It's not interesting, it's not interesting. Qian Yuman covered Tang Yuj's mouth and pinched the flesh of Tang Feishan's waist with her other hand. She was going to be off by this bastard. She once mentioned to Mr. Tang that Qi Lili was pregnant and had a baby again, but she didn't expect that he would spill the beans all of a sudden. Dying. Dying. If Tang Feishan found out, his sister would definitely beat her to death. Not many people knew about this matter. There were only 4 of them and Murong Ye, and now there were a bunch of people present. Grandma Tang's expression also changed, and she looked at Qian Yuman in shock. Xiao Man'er, was Lili pregnant that year? There is no fool here. From Tang Yuj's few simple words just now, we can already guess the problem. They said that Qian Yuman clearly had a miscarriage, so why could she still give birth to a pair of children? Who was the one who had the miscarriage? They watched Qian Yuman bleed with their own eyes. Qian Yuman rubbed his head in annoyance, not knowing whether to tell a group of people who didn't know what happened back then or not. Qian, since everyone already knows, it's better to tell them that Feishan also has the right to know. After all, the child is also Tang Feishan's, so he should know. In an instant, all eyes fell on Qian Yuman. She wished she could punch this who spilled the beans. Actually, when Lili and Fei Chen broke up, I knew she was pregnant. The simple explanation was enough to shock everyone present. At that time, Qi Lili caused a lot of troubles by pretending to be pregnant, but she turned out to be pregnant, and no one knew about it. When the baby died, no one knew about it. Tang Feishan's expression suddenly became very painful. He thought about many things in his mind, including the fact that Qi Lili was pregnant but broke up with him in tears. What's the matter with the child? Tang Feishan's voice was a little choked when he spoke. A new book will be released on May 20th, everyone can look forward to it. Are you excited? Are you happy? The introduction is as follows. Climb onto the bed and I'll take a picture of you. Take off your coat. Take off one more piece. She was angry, pulled out all her hair, rushed towards him, tugged at his clothes and yelled. You have to take them off together, and you have to take them together. It's best not to wear anything at all. Come on. Hurt each other. A hot photo spread all over the world overnight. She became the heroine of the pornographic scandal and the most interesting person in the country, just because she had a fight in the car. Since then, she has been living a perverted life. The male protagonist of the pornographic school has taken control of her and forced her to take various role-playing photos. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1458. Chapter 1458 Lili's miscarriage too. What's the matter with the child? Tang Feishan's voice was a little choked when he spoke. It's gone, it was gone back then. Qian Yuman began to slowly tell the story of that year. Tang Yuj didn't tell them the whole story at first, and the Tang family had always been puzzled as to why Qian Yuman gave birth to a child after jumping into the river. It's not that the child looked like them, they might have thought it was Jian Yuman who was born later. Tang Yuj knew that Jian Yuman was alive, so he went alone. Later, he thought that the child was dead, and he fell into depravity again. In the face of other people's inquiries, he didn't mention a word. Even the people of the Tang family learned about their reconciliation from other people's mouths. Tang Feishan and the others don't know what happened to Jian Yuman and Tang Yuj in the past few years. Grandma Tang is the one who knows the most. Even Grandma Tang knew about it not long ago. But she didn't tell Grandma Tang about Qi Lili, not even a word. This time, she spoke in detail, hoping to let Tang Feishan understand that he and Lili once had a child, but this child was killed by Lu Rong. When he heard what Jian Yuman said, Tang Feishan had already covered his eyes with his hands, feeling very sad. Perhaps he has started to shed tears, crying for his unharmed child. After hearing what happened that year, Tang Xingai's expression turned ugly. Even if Lu Rong was his mother, he couldn't understand it. The relationship between Tang Xingai and Lu Rong had already become very bad back then. Now that he knows what she has done, he feels a lot of resentment towards his mother. 10,000 steps back to think about it, when she broke up with Yang Yanliu, if Lu Rong had not paid for it, would Yang Yanliu have left him before accepting it? If Qi Lili had successfully given birth to a child, there would have been a child between Tang Feishan and Qi Lil. With a child, I believe that Tang Feishan would have an additional channel to pursue Qi Lili again. But, all of this was ruined by Lu Rong. Fei Chen, don't be too sad. That's all in the past. As for Lili, Murongye is very happy now. The miscarriage has always been a scar in her heart. Jian Yuman said this. The content is not meant to poke fun at Tang Feishan and Qi Lili. If Qi Lili doesn't want to be with Tang Feishan, she doesn't want to ruin the relationship between Qi Lili and Murongye because of what she said today. I understand. Tang Feishan spoke with a choked voice. A meal changes its flavor as you eat it. Tang Yuj, who knew he had said something wrong, also became quiet and looked at Tang Yuj with flattering eyes from time to time. However, Jian Yuman was very angry. Tang Yuj looked down on Tang Wentao tonight and leaked the news. She was unwilling to forgive him for these two things. Tang Yuj, who felt that he had done something wrong, became much more obedient. After the dinner party, he served Jian Yuman like he served his ancestors, rubbing shoulders, getting slippers, and warming the bed. This made Jian Yuman, who was full of anger, feel more comfortable. Early the next morning, Lu Rong called Jian Yuman. "Manman, are you awake? Have you seen Xinglu? She hasn't come home since last night. I told Wen Tao that he doesn't care about his daughter's life or death. I'm really worried about Xinglu." Lu Rong's tone of voice was pitiful and no longer as sharp as before. Jian Yuman also thought for a while, could it be that Lu Rong really changed her gender? Back then, Lu Rong would have had a bit of anger instead of a pitiful tone. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1459. Chapter 1459, Designing to Manman 1. Jian Yuman also thought for a while, could it be that Lu Rong really changed her gender? Back then, Lu Rong would have had a bit of anger instead of a pitiful tone. Lu Rong's tone has changed. Maybe she has really changed. The series of lessons Tang Yuj gave her at the beginning made her change her behavior and not dare to provoke her. She knew that Tang Yuj behind her was not someone to be trifled with. The more Jian Yuman thought about it, the more likely it was. Tang Yuj's original lesson was not light at all. It was mental torture, torture more painful than death. Coupled with the fact that Tang Xinglu didn't come home all night, it's not surprising at all that Lu Rong's attitude changed. Don't worry, I'll ask Yuj to help me find him right away. Thank you. Thank you Manman, I really appreciate it. Lurong kept thanking her on the phone. The moment the phone was hung up, Lurong's pitiful expression instantly changed, becoming gloomy and unpredictable, with terrifying evil in her eyes. Qian Yuman, this time, I'm going to teach you a painful lesson. When you become a broken shoe for other men, we will see if Tang Yuj will still want you. There was no one around in the room, so Lurong raised her head and laughed. Laugh wildly and heartily. After learning that Tang Xinglu was slapped by Tang's father, she ran away from home and never came back. As Tang Xinglu's eldest brother, although he resented Lurong and Tang Xinglu was unruly and willful, she was also his only sister. Naturally, he spared no effort in searching for her and mobilized all the forces he could mobilize to find Tang Xinglu. After searching, they found Tianhe, and Qian Yuman began to worry about whether Tang Xinglu, a little girl, would suffer a loss outside or go astray. Tang Yuj has already mobilized people to look for him, but he has a job and can't look for it himself. At night, Qian Yuman was taking care of the children, always paying attention to her cell phone. If she found Tang Xinglu, there would be a call. While she was feeding her child, the phone call that had been quiet for a long time finally came through. Manman Lurong's voice sounded on the other end of the phone. There was some music in the background, which was a bit noisy. "Auntie, what's the matter?" "I found Xinglu, but she was hanging out with a group of gangsters. I told her to go home, but she didn't want to. Can you come over and help me persuade her? She is very upset about her father beating her. So, Aunt, can I ask you something? Let Xinglu scold you a few words to relieve your anger? Forget it, you don't deserve to be scolded. Anyway, please give me some advice." "Okay, send me the address and I'll go over there right away." Hang up the phone and received the address. Qian Yuman touched little Mickey's head. "I'm going to find your aunt. As a brother, you should take good care of Ruru. If there is anything you can't solve, call Daddy. Don't go out casually. Do you understand?" "Mommy, go ahead, I will take care of my sister." Qian Yuman grabbed the car keys and drove out, rushing to the place Lurong said. She didn't think much about it, just thinking that Lurong couldn't persuade Tang Xinglu, but she didn't know that she had unknowingly walked into a situation designed by Lurong. The bar Qian Yuman rushed to was quite lively and suitable for young people to go to. Tang Xinglu often came here before, so Lurong had been squatting here since evening, and sure enough, Tang Xinglu was there. When Qian Yuman walked in, she quickly found Tang Xinglu, who was holding a young man's arm around her shoulders and drinking. Lurong had been advising her earnestly. The introduction to the new book is as follows. Climb onto the bed and I'll take a picture of you. Take off your coat. Take off one more piece. She was angry, pulled out all her hair, rushed towards him, tugged at his clothes and yelled. You have to take them off together, and you have to take them together. It's best not to wear anything at all. Come on. Hurt each other. A hot photo spread all over the world overnight. She became the heroine of the pornographic scandal and the most interesting person in the country, just because she had a fight in the car. Since then, she has been living a perverted life. The male protagonist of the pornographic school has taken control of her and forced her to take various role-playing photos. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1460. Chapter 1460, Designing to Manman 2. When Qian Yuman walked in, she quickly found Tang Xinglu, who was holding a young man's arm around her shoulders and drinking. Lurong had been advising her earnestly. Xinglu, you and your mother should go home. You're so annoying, Tang Xinglu said with a dark face, getting angry at her mother. What do you think you are good for? As a wife, you can't keep your husband's heart, and you force your son away. You don't know how to defend me when my father beats me. Don't you think your mother is a failure? My father doesn't even care about me. Why do you come out to care about me? Don't disturb me drinking, please leave quickly. Tang Xinglu waved her hands and chased her mother away in disgust. Xinglu, how can you say that about your mother? What did I say to you? Tang Xinglu sneered. Isn't it okay to say a few words to you? If it weren't for me and Xingai, Dad would have divorced you a long time ago. Tang Xinglu spoke more and more excessively. Lu Rong's expression became ugly and she raised her hand to hit her daughter. What? Do you want to imitate Dad and beat me? I think you can't help it. Tang Xinglu deliberately stretched out her face. You hit. You hit. My son hates you, and now you want my daughter to hate you too? Lu Rong, you are such a failure as a person. Although Tang Xinglu is an unruly young lady, it does not mean that she is the same person as Lu Rong in her heart. Everything she does is based on her preference. She hates Jian Yuman and wants to make her uncomfortable, but she won't do anything as vicious as Lu Rong. At least she does things openly and doesn't smile on the outside and do dirty things behind the scenes. Tang Xinglu used to be relatively dependent on her mother, but everything happened one after another. Qi Lili had a miscarriage, Tang Xingai's couple was broken up, and her eldest brother took revenge on her mother. She was not stupid enough not to see it. Everyone is targeting the mother. Is there really no problem with the mother? Yesterday, she deliberately made trouble for Jian Yuman, and it was because she was stimulated by Lu Rong's words that she slandered Jian Yuman. Unexpectedly, this woman not only refused to help her, but also established herself as a good wife. Nausea. Too disgusting. This home made her feel disgusting. She didn't want to go back to that home again. She would rather play outside with her friends all the time than go home and face such a parent's family. Jian Yuman, who had been watching from a distance for a few minutes, rushed forward and grabbed Lu Rong's hand. Auntie, don't be impulsive. Lu Rong's gloomy expression instantly softened when she saw Jian Yuman. She no longer impulsively wanted to hit Tang Xinglu, but pretended to be a weak woman. Xinglu, Mom knows she was wrong, please forgive her. Cut, pretend, keep pretending. Tang Xinglu glanced at Lu Rong and directly attacked Jian Yuman, another person she hated. What are you here for? Are you here to laugh at me? How could it be? I advised you to go home. He, are you so kind? Tang Xinglu sneered. I'm not that kind, and I don't like your sister-in-law. But there's nothing I can do. You are Yu's only sister, and I am your sister-in-law. I can only try to persuade you for the sake of being a relative however, but she would not be like Lu Rong, who kept persuading and lowered her attitude. I asked you how could you find your conscience. It turns out that it was my elder brother who asked you to please go back. I will not go home with you today, and I will not go home with you in the future. Xinglu, don't be so disobedient, just go home with your mother. End of this chapter.